You have the vision completely mapped out. The business, the body, the book, the life you're building toward. You can see it in detail, you talk about it, you've probably planned it more than once, in a notebook or a note on your phone. And yet right now, there's one small, boring task sitting in front of you, the thing that would actually move you 1 inch closer to all of it, and you cannot make yourself do it. You'll do almost anything else first. This isn't a small contradiction. It's the exact same brain, at the exact same time, being both fully driven and completely stuck. Here's the part that should surprise you. This isn't a discipline problem, and it isn't hypocrisy. Neuroscientists have actually found two separate systems in the brain that get lumped together under one word: motivation. One is called wanting, the other is called liking, or in plain terms, doing. The researchers Berridge and Terry Robinson discovered that dopamine, the chemical everyone blames for drive, is mostly responsible for wanting, for craving an outcome, not for the effort of actually getting it. You can have a brain absolutely flooded with wanting, obsessed with the picture of success, while the separate system responsible for grinding through a boring task stays almost completely uninvolved. So the fantasy and the follow-through are not the same muscle. And here's where it gets stranger, because the fantasy can actually work against you. The psychologist Gabriele Oettingen ran a series of studies on people vividly imagining their own success, picturing the promotion, the finished project, the future life in detail. You'd expect that to fuel them. Instead, her research found the opposite. People who spent more time positively fantasizing about achieving a goal put in less effort afterward, and achieved less. Oettingen's explanation is almost unsettling. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagining a reward and having it. A vivid enough fantasy produces a small hit of premature satisfaction, right now, for free, and that quietly drains the urgency to go earn the real thing. There's a second piece to this, and it explains why ambition can start to feel like an identity instead of a to-do list. Psychologists have documented something called symbolic self-completion. People who deeply want to be a certain kind of person, driven, successful, disciplined, often find that acquiring the symbols of that identity feels almost as satisfying as actually becoming it. Buying the planner, reading about the routine, talking at length about the plan. Every one of those things lets you feel like the ambitious version of yourself for a moment, without the cost of the boring, repetitive work that version of you would actually have to do. The identity gets rehearsed constantly, the execution barely gets touched, and underneath both of these sits one more mechanism, one that behavioral economists have measured directly. Your brain discounts effort the way it discounts money. A reward that requires a lot of visible, tedious work in the next 10 minutes gets valued far lower than the exact same reward imagined as an abstract future outcome. So the giant, exciting goal 5 years out gets full emotional weight. The small, unglamorous task in front of you right now, the one email, the one page, the one set of reps, gets quietly discounted almost to nothing, even though it's the only thing that was ever going to get you there. This is why ambitious but lazy is such a misleading way to describe what's actually happening. It isn't two competing traits. It's one system generating enormous desire for an outcome, and a completely separate system that has never been recruited to do the unglamorous work required to reach it. The dreaming was never the hard part. It was never supposed to be. Dreaming is cheap, biologically. It costs nothing and pays out a little hit of satisfaction immediately. Doing costs something every single time with no guaranteed payout until much later, and the brain is exquisitely built to prefer the first over the second. So here's the reframe. If this describes you, the fix was never want it more. You already want it plenty. The actual gap is between a brain that's extremely good at generating vivid futures and a brain that has to be separately, deliberately trained to tolerate small, boring, unrewarding effort in the present. Those are two different skills. One of them you clearly already have. The other one has to be built the same unglamorous way everything else does. Badly, repeatedly, and starting with the one task in front of you that you've been avoiding since the beginning of this video.